Sham Sharadava Nalalidaloka Pranaya Karuna Gana Ganatam Sham Sharadava Nalalidaloka Tranaya Karuna Gana Ganatam Prapta Sakalyana Gunanavasya Vande Guru Shri Charanara Vrindam Vande Guru Shri Charanara Vande Guru Shri Charanara Vrindam Vande Guru Shri Charanara Vrindam Mahaprabhu ki Tananita Gita Vaditra Madhyam Manasura Sena Vaditra Madhyam Romancha Kampasru Taranga Vajo Vande Guru Shri Charanara Vrindam Shri Vigrahara Dhananitanana Shringaratanma Niramajanadu Shri Vigrahara Juktasya Bhaktamsa Neyunjatopi Vande Guru Shri Charanara Vrindam Chaturvidha Shri Bhagavat Prasada Satana Triptan Hari Bhakta Sangha Chaturvidha Shri Bhagavat Prasada Satana Triptan Kridvaiva Tripti Vajata Shadeva Vande Guru Shri Charanara Vrindam Shri Radhikama Davayara Para Madhura Lila Gunarupanamna Shri Radhika Madhura Lila Pratikshana Dhanalalupasya Vande Guru Shri Charanara Vrindam Ne kunjayono Ratikari Siddhai Jayali Bhir Juktir Apekshaneya Nikunjayono Ratikari Siddhai Tatratidakya Ativalavasya Vande Guru Shri Charanaravrindam. Sakchadharitena samasta shashri ruktastathava vataiva sadvi. Sakchadharitena shashri kintu prabharja priyaiva tasya Vande Gurashi Charanaravrindam Priyaiva tasya Yasya prasada Bhagavat prasada Yasya prasadam Nagati kutapi Yasya prasadam Dayam stuvam tasya Yasatri sandhyam Vande Gurashi Charanaravrindam Dayam stuvam tasya Yasatri sandhyam Vande Gurashi Charanaravrindam Vande Gurashi Charanaravrindam Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Nama O Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pristaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Namaste Sarasate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunavadi Pachatyarisha Tarine Namaste Sarasate Deve Pachata Dishata Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Shri Krishna Chaitanya Chaitanya Nityananda Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Shri Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Bo. Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Bo. Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Yaraya Namah, Krishna Jadavaya Namah. Jadavaya Madhavaya Keshavaya Namaha. Gopal Govinda Ram Shri Madhusudam. Giridhari Gopinath Madana Mohan. Shri Chaitanya Nityananda Shri Advaita Sita. Hari Guru Vaishnava Bhagavata Gita. Shri Rupa Sanatan Bhatta Raghuna. Shri Jiva Gopala Bhatta Dasaraguna. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Bo, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Shri Radha, Nila Madhava Radha, Nila Madhava Radhe. Jaya Jagannath, Jaya Baladeva, Jaya Subhadrama, Jaya Sudarshan Chakra. Jaya Sitaram, Jaya Sitaram, Sitaram, Jaya Lakshman Hanuman. Nittai Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nittai Gaur Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nittai Gaur Premanande Hari Bol, Jai Vishpad, Paramita Prabhajaka Sutra Srimad-Bhagavatam. अभचरविंद भक्ति वेदांत स्वामी महाराज श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय। इस्कॉन प्रतिष्ठित भविष्य संस्थापकाचार्य वैष्णव शिरोमणि पतित पावन श्रील प्रभुपाद जी महाराज की जय। श्री गौर्य गुरु वर्गापति उद्धार की जय। श्री रूप सनातन भक्त रघुनाथ जीव गोपाल भक्त दास गुण सदगोस्वामी प्रभु की जय। नमाचार्य शील हरिदास ठाकुर जी की जय। जय अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय। प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवसरि गौर भक्त वृंद की जय। जय परम दयाल श्री नित्यानंद प्रभु की जय। जय प्रेम नाम संकीर्तन एक जनक प्रेम पुरुषोत्तम श्री सच्चिदानंद स्मरण गौरंग श्री चैतन्य महाप्रभु गौर हरि महावरनाय अवतार की जय। गोलोकेर प्रमधानिनम संकीर्तन जग की जय। जुग धर्म हरे कृष्ण मंत्र की जय। बृहद मृदंग ट्रांसलेंटल बुक डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन सेवा की जय। श्री श्री राधा कृष्ण गोप राधा कुंद समकुंद गिरिराज गोवर्धन की जय। श्री ब्रजभूमि वृंदावन मथुराधाम की जय। दिलवश श्री राधंजल माधव की जय। श्री मायापुर नवद्वीप एक चक्रधाम की जय। जय परम करुण श्री गौर निताय की जय। श्री पुरुषोत्तम क्षेत्र जगन्नाथपुरी धाम की जय। श्री श्री जगन्नाथ स्वामी बलदेव प्रभु सुभद्रा देवी सुदर्शन चक्र भगवान की जय। भक्ति सर्व विघ्न विनाशन कर्ण सिंह भगवान की जय। गंगा माई जामुना माई की तुलसी महारानी वृंद देवी भक्ति देवी की जय। श्री मथुरा रानी की जय। समवेत भक्त वृंद की जय। निताय गौर प्रमानंदे हरि बोल। All glory to somebody bodies. All glory to somebody bodies. All glory to somebody bodies. All glories, all glories, all glories to Sri Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga Nitai Gaurani. Mataji? Mataji? Haribo, can you sing? You sing a prayer?
Namaste Narasimhaya Praladadaine Hiranyakashipurvakshaha Shilatankanakalaye Ito Narsimha Parato Narsimha Yato Yato Yami Tato Narsimha Bahe Narsimha Hridaye Narsimha Narasimha Madim Sharanam Prapadye Tava Kara Kamalavare Nakam Adbhuta Shringam Dalita Hiranyakashipu Tanu Bringam Keshavadita Narahari Rupa Jai Jagadish Hare Jai Jagadish Hare Jai Jagadish Hare Hare Nakam Adbhuta Shringam Dalita Hiranyakashipu Tanu Bringam Keshavadrita Narahari Rupa Jai Jagadish Hare Jai Jagadish Hare हरे केशवधृता नरहरि रूपा जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे जय नरसिंहदेव जय नरसिंहदेव नरसिंहदेव जय नरसिंहदेव जय प्रहलाद महाराज जय प्रहलाद महाराज प्रहलाद महाराज जय प्रहलाद महाराज निताय गौर हरि बोल हरि बोल निताय गौर हरि बोल
Demon.
Giant demon. Giant demon. There's a good demon.
Mitra. Na
He's my master.
yeah. Namo Namaha Tulasi Krishna Preyasi Namo Namaha Tulasi Krishna Preyasi Namo Namaha Radha Krishna Seva Pavo Eya Bilasi Na Seva Pavo Eya अभिलाषी राधा कृष्ण सेवा पावो हे अभिलाषी राधा कृष्ण सेवा पावो हे अभिलाषी जे তোমার শরণ লয় তারা বাঞ্ছা পূর্ণ হয় ও তোমার শরণ লয় তারা বাঞ্ছা পূর্ণ কৃপা করি তোর তারে বৃন্দাবনবাসী কৃপা করি মোরা বিলাস কুঞ্জে ধিও বিলাস কুঞ্জে ধিও নয়নে হরিব সদা युगल रूप राशि मायाने हरिव सदा कला रूप এই নিবেদন ধর সাকির অনুগত করো এই নিবেদন ধর অনুগত করো সেবা অধিকার দিয়ে করো নিজ দাসী करो निज दासी दीना कृष्ण दासे कोय ये ना मोरा है कृष्ण दासे कोय ये ना मोरा श्री राधा गोविंदा प्रेम सदा जिन भासी राधा गोविंदा प्रेम सदा जिन भासी श्री राधा गोविंदा प्रेम सदा जिन भासी गोविंद प्रेम सदा नगासी तुलसी कृष्ण प्रेयसी नमो नमः तुलसी कृष्ण प्रेयसी नमो नमः यानि कानि च पापानि ब्रह्म हत्यादिकानि च तानि तानि प्रणश्यन्ति प्रदक्षिणा पदे पदे हानिकानि च पापानि ब्रह्म हत्यादिकानि च तानि तानि प्रणश्यन्ति प्रदक्षिणा पदे पदे यानि कानि च पापानि ब्रह्म हत्यादिकानि च तानि तानि प्रणश्यन्ति प्रदक्षिणा पदे पदे यानि च पापानि हत्यादिकानि च तानि तानि Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Tulsi Maharani, Jaya Tulsi Maharani, Jaya Tulsi Maharani, Jaya Tulsi Maharani, Jaya Maharani, Jaya Vrinda Devi, Vrinda Devi, Vrinda Devi, Jaya Vrinda Devi, 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 Jaya Devi. Nitai Gaur Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaur Hari Bol, Nitai Gaur Hari Bol, Hari Hari Hari. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Gurudev, 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 Jaya Jaya Gurudev, Jaya Jaya Gurudev.
Darpanamarjanam Bhavamadavanirvapanam Shriyakari Vachandika Vitaranam Vidyavadhu Jivanam Anandam Buddhivadhanam Patipadam Purnamrita Sadhanam Sarvatmasnam Paramparam Jayate Shri Krishna Sankirtanam Nam Nam Karya Udha Nija Sarva Shaktis Tatra Pitani Amita Shmarane Nakala Ita Dusitava Kripaya Bhagavan Namapi Durdhaiva Miti Samya Jani Nanuraga Vinada Pisani Chaina Tarora Pisa Ishnuna Amani Namani Kirtaniya Sadahari Adhanam na janam na sundarim Kavitam vajagari shakamaye Mama janmane janmanishari Bhavatar bhaktira haituki tvai Ainandatanujakin karam Paritamam visame bhavam buddho Kripaya tava pada pankaja Stitaduli sadrisham vichintaya Nayanam galara shrudharaya Vadanam gada gada rudaya gira Purakaya nichitam vapukara Tavanama grahane bhavishyati Yugaitam nimishena Chakusha pravrutsaitam Shunya itam jagata sarvam Govinda virahinam Asli sabha padaratam pinastumam Adarshanar marmahaktam karotuva Jata tathava vidadhatulam pato Matprana tastu sa evana para Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu Shri Kirtastakam ki jai. Namo Mahavaranayo Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnayo Krishna Chaitanya Namine Gaura Tvishe Namaha. Glory to the Shri Krishna Sankirtana, which cleanses the heart of the dust accumulated for years and extinguishes the fire of conditional life of repeated birth and death. The Sankirtan moment is the primary benediction for humanity at large, because it spreads the rays that the benediction moment. It is the life of all transcendental knowledge. It increases the ocean of transcendental bliss and enables us to fully taste the nectar for which we are always anxious. O my Lord, your holy name alone can render all benediction to living beings, and thus you have hundreds and millions of names like Krishna and Govinda. In these transcendental names, you have invested all your transcendental energies. There are not even hard and fast rules for chanting these names. O my Lord, out of kindness you enable us to easily approach you by holy names, but I'm so unfortunate that I have no attraction for them. Once you chant the holy name of the Lord in a humble state of mind, thinking oneself a Lord and stroll in the street, one should be more tolerant than the tree, devoid of all sense of false prestige, and should be ready to offer all respect to others. In such state of mind, one can chant the holy name of the Lord constantly. O Almighty Lord, I have no desire to accumulate wealth, nor do I desire beautiful women, nor do I want any number of followers. I only want your cause of devotional service, birth after birth. O son of Maharaj Nanda Krishna, I am your eternal servitor. Yes, some or other, I am falling in this ocean of birth and death. Please pick me up from this ocean of death and place me as one of the atoms at your lotus feet. O my Lord, when will my eyes will be decorated with tears of love, flowing constantly when I chant your holy name? When will my voice choke up, and will the hairs of my body stand on the end of the recitation of your name? O Govinda, feeling your separation, I am considering a moment to be like 12 years or more. Tears are flowing from my eyes like torrents of rain, and I'm feeling vacant in the world in your absence. I know no one but Krishna as my Lord, and sure remain so, even if he hundreds me rightfully by his embrace, or makes me broken-hearted by not being present before me. He is completely free to do anything and everything, for he is always my worshipful Lord unconditionally. Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu Shri Kirtastakam ki jai. There are 10 offenses in the matter of chanting the holy name of the Lord that should be avoided. They are as follows. 1. To blaspheme the devotees who dedicate their life for propagating the holy name of the Lord. 2. To consider the names of demigods, our Lord Shiva and Lord Brahma, to be equal to or independent of the name of Lord Vishnu. 3. To disobey the orders of the spiritual master. 4. To blaspheme the Vedic literatures or literatures and pursuits of Vedic version. 5. To consider the glory of chanting Hare Krishna to be imagination. 6. To give some interpretation to the holy name of the Lord. 7. To commit sinful activities on the strength of chanting the holy name of the Lord. 8. To consider the chanting of Hare Krishna as one of the auspicious ritualistic activities which are offered in Vedas as fruitive activity, karma kanda. 9. To instruct the fearless person about the glories of holy name. And 10. To not have complete faith in chanting the holy names and to maintain material attachments, even after understanding so many instructions on this matter. It is also an offense to be inattentive while chanting. Every devotee who claims to be Vaishnava must carefully guard against these 10 offenses in order to quickly achieve the desired success. Krishna Prema. Now let's offer our most humble obeisances unto all the Vaishnavas, devoted to the Lord. They are just like desired trees. They can fulfill the desires of everyone, and they are full of compassion for the fallen conditioned soul.
Guru Pranama prayers ki jai. Om Aganyat Nirandasya Yanamjana Salakaya Chaturveditamyena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manubhishtam Shapitam Navituri Swayam Bhaktamayam Tadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Jatahap Chikamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavam Shah Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahaguna Ragunatan Vitam Tam Sajivam Saivaitam Savadutam Parijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Alita Shri Vishaka Divitam Sha Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutali Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Tinamini Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvisesa Sunyavadi Paskatya Desatarine Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutali Srimate Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Tinamini Shivarsavanavi Devi Daitaya Kripabdaya Krishna Sambandha Vigyana Dayane Prabhave Namaha Madhur Ujvala Premadya Shri Rupanuka Bhaktita Shri Gora Karuna Shakti Vigrahaya Namostute Namaste Gauravani Shri Murtaye Dinatarine Rupanuga Virudapa Apasiddhanta Dvantaharine Namo Gora Kishoraya Shakshad Vairagya Murtaye Vipralambara Sambodhe Padambujayate Namaha Namo Bhakti Vinodaya Sachitanandanamine Gora Shakti Swarupaya Rupanuga Varayate Gora Vir Baba Bhumestvam Nirdesta Sajjana Priya Vaishnava Savabhoma Sri Jaganatayate Namaha Vanchakalpa Tarabhyascha Kripasindubhyevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Pramapadayate Krishna Krishna Chaitanya Namne Gorachuse Namaha Panchatatvatmakam Krishnam Bhaktarupa Swarupakam Bhaktavataram Bhaktakam Namami Bhakta Saktikam Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopisha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostate Jayatam Suratur Bangur Mama Manda Mater Gati Matsarva Swapadam Bhojo Radha Madana Mohana Divyad Vrindaranya Kalpa Drumadaha Shimad Ratnagara Simasanastito Shimad Radha Shila Govinda Devo Prestali Bihi Sevimano Smarami Shiman Rasara Sarambi Vamsivata Tatastita Karsan Venuswanir Gobir Gobinatakstriye Stuna Tapta Kanchana Gurangi Radhi Vrindavaneshwari Vishabhanustute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Shri Guru Pranama prayers ki jai Shri Brahma Samhita ki jai Ishwara Parama Krishna Sachitananda Vigraha Anadi Radhe Govinda Sarvakarana Karanam Chintamani Prakara Sadma Sukalpa Riksha Laksha Vritesa Surabira Bipalyantam Lakshmi Sahasra Satasambrama Sevyamanam Govindam Adi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Venum Kwanantam Aravinda Dalayataksham Barhavatam Samasitam Buddha Sundarangam Kandarpa Koti Kamaniya Visesa Sobam Govindam Adi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Alola Chandra Kalasadvanam Alyavamsi Ratnam Gadam Pranay Keli Kalavilasam Shaman Tribanga Lalita Nita Prakasam Govindam Adi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Angani Yasya Sakalendriya Vritti Manti Pasyanti Panti Karyanti Chiram Jaganti Ananda Chinmaya Sadujvala Vigrahasya Govindam Adi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Advaitam Achyutam Anadi Mananta Rupam Adyam Purana Purisham Navayovanam Cha Vede Sadurlabam Adurlabam Atma Bhakto Govindam Adi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Pantastukoti Satafat Sarasam Pragamyo Vayoratapi Manaso Munipungamanam Sopyasti Yad Prapadasimya Vichintya Tattve Govindam Adi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Ekopya Sora Chayatum Jagadanda Kotir Yach Chakti Rasti Rajananda Chayadanta Danta Rasta Paramanu Chayanta Rastam Govindam Adi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Yad Bhava Bhavita Diyo Manajasta Taiva Samprapya Rupa Mahima Sanayana Busaha Sukta Yameva Nigama Pratitaistuvanti Govindam Adi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Ananda Chinmaya Rasam Pratibhavita Bistabirya Eva Nijarupa Tayakalabi Goloka Evani Vasata Kilatma Bhuto Govindam Adi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Premanjana Churita Bhakti Vilochanena Santaksa Deva Hidesu Vilokayanti Yam Shama Sundaram Achintya Gunaswarupam Govindam Adi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Ramadi Murti Sukalani Menatistan Nana Avatar Makarod Bhuvane Sukintu Krishna Swayam Samabhavat Paramam Pamanyo Govindam Adi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Yasya Prabha Prabhavato Jagananda Koti Yes Koti Swasesu Vasudadi vibhuti vinam tad brahmaniskalam nantashesham govindam adi purusham tamaham bhajami maya hiyasya jagranda satani sute trigunya tad vishay veda vitayamanam sadvavulam viparasatvam visuddha sattvam govindam adi purusham tamaham bhajami ananda chinmaya rasatmataya manasu ya praninam pratifalam smaratam upetya lilayatena bhuvanani jayaya jasram govindam adi purusham tamaham bhajami goloka namni nijadamni tale chatasya devi maheso haridama sute sutesu te prabhavani jaya vichasta yena govindam adi purusham tamaham bhajami shrististati pralaya sadhava sakti reka chayeva yasya bhuvanani vivarti durga ichhanurupam abhyasya chachestate sa govindam adi purusham tamaham bhajami shiram yata dadi vikara visesa yoga sanjayate nahitata pritakasti heto yasambhutam apitata samapaitika yat govindam adi purusham tamaham bhajami deeparchadev hita santanam abhyapetya deepayate vivita hetu samanu dharma yastadrikeva hicha vishnutaya vibhati govindam adi purusham tamaham bhajami yakarna narlava jale bhajati sma yoga nidram ananta jagaranda saroma kubaha adhara saktim avalambya param smamurtim govindam adi purusham tamaham bhajami yashyaika nisprasita kalam atavalambya shivanti loma vilaja jagaranda nata vishnur mahansa yasya kala visheso govindam adi purusham tamaham bhajami baswanya tasma sakalesha nijesu teja sriyam kiyat prakatiyat apitadvadatra pramaya esa jagaranda vidanu karta govindam adi purusham tamaham bhajami yat pada palava yugam vinidaya kumbha dvande pranama samayesa kanadi raja vignam vihantam alabasya jagatrayasya govindam adi purusham tamaham bhajami agnir mahi gaganamambu maruddhisasya kalastatatma manasiti jagatrayani yasmad bhavanti visanti amcha govindam adi purusham tamaham bhajami yaschaksuresa savita sakala grahanam raja samasta suramurti rasesa tejaha yasya gaya brahmati sambrita kala chakro govindam adi purusham tamaham bhajami dharmoto papa nichaya sutayastapamsi brahmadi kitapatagava deyasta jivaha yadata matra vibhava bhakata prabhava govindam adi purusham tamaham bhajami yastrindra gopamata vendra mahosva karma bandhanu rupa kvalaka janamatanmate karmani nirdahati kintucha bhakti bhajam govindam adi purusham tamaham bhajami yam krodha kama sahaja pranayadi bhiti vatsalya moha guru gora vasevya bhava sanchinchitasya sarvachim tamaparete govindam adi purusham tamaham bhajami shriyakanta kanta parama purusha kaputara dramabu mishchintamani ganama yitoyam amritam kataganam natyam gamanam apivam sipriyasaki chiranandam jyoti param apitada swadyam apicha sayatra sirabhidami savati surabhibhyasta sumahani me sardakyo vavrajati nahiyatrapi samaya bhajesvitadvipam tamaham iha golokamitiyam vidantaste santakshiti virachara katibaya ishvara parama krishna sachitananda vigraha Anadi Radhe Govinda Sarvakarana Karanam Shri Brahma Samhita Ki Jai Shri Guru Vastak Prayers Ki Jai. The spiritual master is receiving benediction from the ocean of mercy. Just as a cloud pours water on a forest fire to extinguish it, so the spiritual master delivers the materially afflicted world by extinguishing the blazing fire of material existence. I offer my respectful obeisance at the lotus feet of such a spiritual master, who is an ocean of auspicious qualities, chanting the holy name, dancing in ecstasy, singing and playing musical instruments. The spiritual master is always gladdened by the Sankirtan movement of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Because he's relishing the melodies of pure devotion within his mind, sometimes his hair stands on end, he feels quivering in his body, and tears flow from his eyes like waves. I offer my respectful obeisance unto the lotus feet of such a spiritual master. The spiritual master is always engaged in the temple worship of Shri Radha and Krishna. He also engages his disciples in such worship. They dress the deities in beautiful clothes and ornaments, clean their temple, and perform other similar worship of the Lord. I offer my respectful obeisance unto the lotus feet of such spiritual master. Spiritual master is always offering Krishna 4 kinds of delicious food, analyzes that which is licked, chewed, drunk, and sucked. When the spiritual master sees that the devotees are satisfied by eating Bhagavat Prasada, he is satisfied. I offer my respectful obeisance unto the lotus feet of such spiritual master. Spiritual master is always eager to hear and chant about the unlimited conjugal pastimes of Radhika and Madhava and their qualities, names, and forms. The spiritual master aspires to relish these at every moment. I offer my respectful obeisance unto the lotus feet of such a spiritual master. The spiritual master is very dear because he is expert in assisting the gopis who at different times make different tasteful arrangements for the perfection of Radha and Krishna's conjugal loving affairs within the groves of Vrindavan. I offer my most humble obeisance unto the lotus feet of such spiritual master. The spiritual master is to be honored as much as the Supreme Lord because he is the most confidential servitor of the Lord. This is acknowledged in all revealed scriptures and followed by all authorities. Therefore, I offer my respectful obeisance unto the lotus feet of such spiritual master, who is a bona fide representative of Shri Shri Hare Krishna. By the mercy of the spiritual master, one receives the benediction of Krishna. Without the grace of the spiritual master, I cannot make any advancement. Therefore, I should always remember and praise the spiritual master at least 3 times a day. I should offer my respectful obeisance unto the lotus feet of my spiritual master, his divine grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Srimad-Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 1. Text number 41. Samya nusoche tamada patantam Brate paretaya vidud ruherya Niryapito yen suhit swapurya Aham swaputran samanuvratena. Somya, O gentle one, anusoche, just lamenting. Tam, him, adha, patantam, gliding down. Bratre, on his brothers. Paritaya, death. Vidudruhe, revolted against. Ya, one who. Niryapita, driven out. Yena, by whom? Suhrit, well-wisher. Swapurya, from his own house. Aham, myself. Swaputran, with his own sons. Samanuvratena, accepting the same line of action. Translation by Srila Prabhupada. O gentle one, I simply lament for he, Dhritarashtra, who rebelled against his brother, meaning Pandu, after death. By him I was driven out of my own house, although I am his sincere well-wisher, because he accepted the line of action adopted by his own sons. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Vidura did not ask about the welfare of his elder brother, because there was no chance of his well-being, only news of his gliding down to hell. Vidura was a sincere well-wisher for Dhritarashtra, and he had a thought about him in the corner of his heart. He lamented that Dhritarashtra could rebel against the sons of his dead brother, Pandu, and that he could drive him, Vidura, out of his own house on the dictation of his crooked sons. In spite of these actions, Vidura never became an enemy of Dhritarashtra, but continued to be his well-wisher. And at the last stage of Dhritarashtra's life, it was Vidura only who proved to be his real friend. Such is the behavior of a Vaishnava like Vidura. He desires all good, even for his enemies. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. O gentle one, I simply lament for he, Dhritarashtra, who rebelled against his brother after death. By him I was driven out of my own house, although I am a sincere well-wisher, because he accepted the line of action adopted by his own sons. The other day, I was looking for a quote, and I did find it, but I didn't read it to you, so I'm going to do it now. And it is chapter 1, text 37 and 38. And in the purport, it says, obligation is actually binding when the effect is good. But when the effect is otherwise, then no one can be bound. Considering all these pros and cons, Arjuna decided not to fight. Okay, so, is this good? Well, in the case of Arjuna, no. But there are cases where it's The answer is yes. If you make a vow, I will never tell a lie. And just like the story I told about the sadhu who was meditating, his meditation was not far away from the mansion of a very rich man. And one day, some dacoits or thugs came to rob the rich man and kill him. And the rich man found out about it, so he was hiding with his family outside somewhere from the mansion. So they went to the mansion, they couldn't find him. So they went to the sadhu, and they said, Sadhuji, they said, you have made a vow of never telling a lie. Can you please tell us where that rich man and his family are hiding? So he did. And then they went there and killed them, the whole family, and robbed them. So when that sadhu died, he saw Yamaraj. He didn't see Krishna. He saw Yamaraj. Yamaraj took him to hell. He said, wait a minute, what's going on here? I never told a lie in my life. He said, yeah. And because of that, you caused the death of these people. So, therefore, in a situation like that, obligation is actually binding when the effect is good, but when the effect is otherwise, then no one can be bound. Considering all these pros and cons, Arjuna decided not to fight. Well, in the case of Arjuna, he made a mistake because Krishna is giving him a direct order to fight. So, following Krishna's direct order is the highest morality or ethical behavior. And so that point has to be made. So, but you see, it's very easy, not easy, but in certain circumstances, one may think that they're following Vedic instructions, but they do not understand the full, let's say, effect of it. So, therefore, an intelligent devotee will always think of the effect of what he's planning on doing before he does it. And if it's going to cause unnecessary harm to good people, then even though it might be right in another context, in that particular context, it would not be right to do it. So this principle, which is right here in the Bhagavad Gita, obligation is actually binding when the effect is good, but when the effect is otherwise, then no one can be bound. So Arjuna made a mistake here, but in other, let's say, circumstances, one should follow this principle.
So in case of Bhishma, also the same instruction, because he had the obligation because of his vow.
Yeah, but there's one thing about Bhishma. He understood the plan of Krishna. So what is Krishna's plan? Paritanayam sajanam vinasaya saduskritam dharma samsta pranartaya sambhavami atmamaya. So Krishna says, why does he come into this world? He comes to protect the devotees, annihilate the demons, and reestablish the principles of religion. So one should never go contrary to the plan of the Lord. And we're going, and the next verse we're going to read, that is clearly said. So it says, fourth chapter, verses 7 and 8. The verse I quoted, Sambhavami yuge was the last one, I'm sorry. To deliver the pious and to annihilate the miscreants, as well as to reestablish the principles of religion, I myself appear millennium after millennium. So, I explained this before, but now I'll repeat it. Krishna organizes these big wars. Why? He organizes it in such a way that the demons on both sides, and they kill each other. And it lowers the population demons in the world. That's what's happening now in Ukraine. That's what happened in World War II. It's strange. In World War II, 20 million Russian men were killed in that war. 20 million. So far in Ukraine, 24,000 Russian soldiers have been killed. Right. So obviously, and then who knows how many Ukrainians. The Ukrainians are not saying how many people are. I mean, they talk about innocent citizens that have been killed unjustly by the Russians, and that number is very high. It could be as much as the Russians. They're saying just in Mariupol, 9,000 people, 9,000 citizens have been killed. I guess there's some fighters also. So you see, there's meat eating, illicit sex, gambling, intoxication. This gets people in trouble. And eventually, Krishna waits and then precipitates a situation where there's a big war and a large number of people get killed. Right. So that's the next verse. So we'll get into that in a minute. So, but here, a major point is made in this purport, that is that a devotee, a pure devotee like Vidura, does not become the enemy of his enemy. So that's why it says that such is the behavior of Vaishnava like Vidura. He desires all good, even for his enemies. And he had a strong connection to his brother Dhritarashtra. He was always trying to advise him to take the right path. But Dhritarashtra had another plan. He was born blind physically, and he was also blind spiritually, which is worse. Being blind physically is not exactly a terrible, let's say, obstacle to becoming Krishna conscious. You can still become Krishna conscious, even if you're blind. But to become blind spiritually, that's the worst thing, because that means that you will not become Krishna conscious, and you will cause a lot of pain and suffering to others and yourself. So Vidura did not exactly ask, how's my brother Dhritarashtra doing? Because he knew that Dhritarashtra was going to go down. And so he didn't even ask what's his welfare, because he knew that his brother is going to go to hell, because he's on such a track or such a path that there's, it's self-evident. Just like today, aborting 1 million to 1.5 million children a year. That means this society is going to go down. And then killing at least 3 billion animals and fish. So that's another very serious sinful activity in this country. And then all the illicit sex and all that nonsense, that's another thing. And then intoxication, that's another thing. They're breaking these rules, and there's severe consequences when it's done without any feeling of remorse, and with a very, very, let's say, determination to keep doing these things. Just like they just leaked the news that 2 days ago, or 2 or 3 days ago, that the opinion of one of the justices of the Supreme Court, Alito, and his opinion, that's supposed to be secret until they make a final decision, final vote, to eliminate some important parts of the abortion law that was passed in Roe versus Wade decision by the Supreme Court. Well, this has caused a gigantic tsunami of so-called opposition by all, especially Kamala Harris. So, how dare they do this? Stop killing babies. How dare they do this? Yeah, these are crazy people. They're very, very crazy, very nasty people. And so, they're all getting organized now to have a huge, Bhakta Joe. He's this is going to be war now, right? So, what's wrong with protecting the helpless fetus in the womb of the mother? Well, what's wrong is that when you combine the scientists and the politicians together, what is right will become wrong. So in order to get to the decision of Roe versus Wade to make abortion legal and also to make it funded by the government. See, before that, you could get an abortion, but you have to pay for it yourself. And it was illegal because it was considered infanticide, killing babies. When they passed Roe versus Wade, not only it became legal to have an abortion, but it was also paid for by the government through, Planned Parenthood and other things like that. There was the government supporting the Planned Parenthood and other abortion doctors and so forth. So what happened is that they started killing massive numbers of babies. If you count since I think it was 1962 or 3 that Roe versus Wade passed till today, it's as many people as it's more than the number of people that died in World War II. There's 55 million people died in World War II, right? And it's getting close to the combined number of the people that Stalin killed and Mao Zedong killed. You put them together, you're getting close to 100 million people that have been killed by these two dictators, right? So this is colossal killing of babies, and there's severe reaction for that. So here it says that Vidura knew that his brother is going to go to hell because he's engaged in sinful activity. Now, whenever you say this, like this festival I went to, I was speaking to the lady that was managing that festival, and I saw that I gave her a book about cookbook, Higher Taste, and she really appreciated it. And then I saw that she was interested, so I started preaching to her a little bit, right? And she wanted to know, how come we're giving out the food for free and so forth. And she was very surprised by that, because the other person that was they invited to serve food, they were paying him. So you have to have a coupon, so the people have to give him a coupon, and at the end of the festival, they count all the coupons that he has, and they pay him a certain amount of money, maybe $5, $10, I don't know what it was. And for us, they said, well, you don't need a coupon because it's free. So the people can come up to you and just take it. They don't have to have a coupon. Anyway, so I started preaching to her a little bit. And at one point I was explaining, the 4 pillars of sinful activity. And I saw she got uncomfortable when I said the word sin. You see? Because everybody now is trying to de-escalate or to, you would say, neutralize and make the word sin a bad word. I mean, in other words, use of the word sin is bad. There is no sin. Those are all just what you would call the dogma of religions to make people feel guilty about killing a baby. So they're trying to purge the guilt in people's minds. So you don't use, there's no such thing as a sin. There's personal choice, and you can't violate personal choice, right? Yes, you can. If it's wrong, it's wrong, right? So people get uncomfortable now when they hear the word sin. They think they associate that with dogma of some kind of a religion. And they don't like the word religion either. I mean, they think all religions are bogus. So that's not everybody, but that's a lot of people. It's a majority now. So we see that there's the decriminalization of vice, of sinful activities. They decriminalize it. Like before, it was against the law to smoke marijuana. Now you can smoke all you want, right? You just can't sell more than 1 ounce at a time. Then they might charge you with some kind of thing. But you can carry, you can smoke it, and doesn't matter. People get high and have accidents and get lazy and get dumb. That's all right. The dumber they are, the better. That way they all vote the right way. So this is what's going on today. They decriminalize things that are really bad for people. Like liquor also. Liquor is actually very bad. It's ruined the lives of many people. Cigarettes are very bad. It can kill you, right? Liquor also. But they decriminalize it. And if people want to kill themselves by smoking or drinking liquor or smoking marijuana and taking other drugs, that's their choice. That is not actually, that's because the educational system is bad. And because of that, it seems like it's a new type of principle of society and culture, that it's okay to smoke. Just like they asked Bill Clinton, did you smoke marijuana? He said, well, I smoked, but I didn't inhale. This is crazy. These people are crazy. He said, yeah, of course he smoked, And did he defile women? Yes, of course he did it. But he said, oh, I never had any relationship with that woman. He shook his finger like that on television. And he was lying, right? So let's see what Prabhupada's going to say here. He says that Vidura was the well-wisher of his brother, and he had thought about him. He had a thought about him in the corner of his heart. That means it's part of his makeup, right? He lamented that Dhritarashtra could rebel against the sons of his dead brother Pandu, and that he could drive him, Vidura, out of his own house on the dictation of his crooked sons. So if you start listening to people who are fallen and believe what they say and act on what they say, then you are responsible, as much as the wicked person. In spite of these actions, Vidura never became an enemy of Dhritarashtra, but continued to be his well-wisher. And at the last stage of Dhritarashtra's life, it was Vidura only who proved to be his real friend. After the battle of Kurukshetra was over, all the sons of Dhritarashtra and Gandhari were killed, and they lost the battle. All his desire to see his son, Dhritarashtra, king of the great kingdom that included the whole world at that time. But still, he was living under the protection of Yudhisthira. This is amazing. After trying to kill Yudhisthira and his brothers, now the battle's over, and all his sons are dead, and they're living under the protection of Yudhisthira, who's not trying to kill him, even though they wanted to kill Yudhisthira and his brothers. So Vidura came back to see his brother, and he preached to him. He said, look, you can't stay here under Yudhisthira's protection. You were trying to kill him, right? And because of all the decisions you made, this terrible war took place. 640 million people were killed. He said, you should immediately you can't live like this till you die. You have to give everything up. And you go to the Himalayas. Kunti is going to the Himalayas and preparing for her death. You go with her, you and your wife, you go with her. And you just purify yourselves of all these thoughts and hatreds and things like that. Like after the Battle of Kurukshetra, I think it was it Yudhisthira or somebody, one of the Pandavas, was trying to, assuage the suffering of Gandhari. So he went over to her and he expressed his sorrow that so many people were killed. And she had a like a handkerchief over her eyes. She had made a vow that because her husband is blind, and so that she would never think herself superior to her husband, she blindfolded herself her whole life, after she was married. So she would never think that she's superior to her husband. So this is the proper etiquette of a wife. If the wife thinks they're superior, she is superior to her husband, there's going to be a lot of problems in that marriage. Right? She'll always be insulting her husband or saying derogatory things. Oh, you didn't do this, you didn't do that, you made a big mistake, you're a nonsense, So, so you see, that is the psychology of a happy marriage and a peaceful marriage, that the wife is always subordinate to the husband, even if she's superior. Gandhari was superior to Dhritarashtra, not only because she had eyes that could see and he didn't. She was a much greater yogi than he was. And in Pakistan, in Afghanistan, Kandahar is named after her, Gandhari. Kandahar, Gandhari, right? So she was a very powerful woman. But she always tried to be submissive to her husband, and she was submissive. So I think it was Bhima. He comes to give her a little bit of, very sorry this happened, blah, blah, blah. And she peeked out from her handkerchief that was blocking her eyes and looked at the toes or feet of, I think it was Bhima, she was so angry, it burned him. That's how powerful. I mean, she could have killed him if she wanted to, right? If she looked at him directly, she would have killed him. She didn't want to kill him, but she couldn't help controlling herself. She was a mystic yogi, very powerful woman.
In fact, for her son, before the war, she asks him to come naked so that, if she gives a glance that, he will be protected.
Yes. Yeah, that's right. That's right. Yeah, she was very powerful. Okay, so, but Vidura has a greater power than her, and because of purity. Purity will always overcome vice. That's the whole message of the Mahabharata, that pure devotees will always prevail over the bad people. Maybe not in the beginning, but in the end, yes. Right? Okay, so now the next verse is very, very important, has a very big purport, and is very important. It says, Soham harir matya vidam banena Drisho nrinam chalayato vidatu Nanyo palakshya padavim prasadaj Charami pasyam gatavishmayotra Saham, therefore I, Hare, of the personality of Godhead, Martya, in this mortal world, Vidambanena, without being recognized, Drisha, on sight, Nrinam, of the people in general, Chalayata, bewildering, Vidatu, in order to do it, Na, not, Anya, other, Upalakshya, seen by others. Padavim, glories, prasadat, the grace of. Charami, do travel. Pasyan, by seeing. Gatavishmaya, without doubt. Atra, in this matter. By the way, I forgot, this Saturday, special, there's a festival in Renton that we recently promised to come and have 2 booths there. They're giving us 2 free booths to do some interactive cultural thing, right? So, I don't know. I'm going to need help to do this. Well, they're supplying the chairs and table and the tent. We just have to come with 2 activities, interactive activities. So we have to resuscitate our equipment for these activities. So I was thinking of doing aromatherapy and decorating cupcakes and cookies. But you're going to need helpers to do it. All right, anyway, we'll talk about that later. I just want to mention it because I keep forgetting it every day, and it's only 3 days from now, so I don't want to forget it anymore. Okay, so this verse says, I am not astonished at this, having traveled over the world without being seen by others. The activities of the personality of Godhead, which are like those of a man in this mortal world, are bewildering to others, but I know of his greatness by his grace, and I am happy in all respects. So when he says, I am not astonished at this. Astonished what? At the behavior of Dhritarashtra, who rebelled against his own brother and tried to kill his brother's sons so that his sons could become king and the rulers of the kingdom, and that he completely sold out his allegiance to his sons instead of to his brother, his own brother, right, and his brother's sons. So he says, I'm not astonished at this, but at this very bad behavior, right? Having traveled over the world without being seen by others. The activities of the personality of Godhead, which are like those of a man in this mortal world, are bewildering to others, but I know of his greatness by his grace, and thus I am happy in all respects. So this has a big meaning, and it explains it in the purport. Although he was the brother of Dhritarashtra, Vidura was completely different. By the grace of Lord Krishna, he was not foolish like his brother, and thus his brother's association could not influence him. That's the point. Association. This is how people become conditioned, by bad association. But if someone is trained in Krishna consciousness, they don't care a whit about the statements of the bad association people. But that's why it's so dangerous, because we're not really educating our kids enough in these formative years, and we're letting the schools educate them. Now, I'm not saying you 2 or you 3 are like that, but most of the other parents are not really serious about getting their kids educated spiritually. And it means you have to make a real effort coming to the classes, hearing submissively, asking questions. This is really important. Like the other day, on Sunday, I was coming to the temple to be on time for the Sunday feast, and I saw some of our kids going down the opposite direction of the temple with a basketball to play. Now, why should they be doing that on a Sunday afternoon when there's going to be the Sunday feast? Because they don't care. They don't really care. And the parents don't care. Although the parents may come to the temple without their kids to be in the Sunday feast or to do something in the temple, and they don't mind their kids just going and playing basketball. You see, this is a dilemma. This is serious. Anyway, So Dhritarashtra and his materialistic sons wanted to falsely lord it over the world by dint of their own strength. This is a big point. The Lord encouraged them in this, and thus they became more and more bewildered. Now you could ask the question, why would the Lord encourage them? Because that's their desire. So, man proposes, God disposes. If you're meditating in a certain way all the time, then Krishna will say, okay, that's what you want, that's what you're going to get. See? So, if you want to play basketball, instead of coming to the temple to hear about Krishna and see the Aarti and chant in the bhajans and learn the bhajans and things like that, that's your decision. And Krishna will help you do that. See? So everything depends on our desires. And if we are desiring the wrong thing, eventually Krishna puts his hands up and says, okay, I give up. You're so adamant about it, so now I'll help you get it. And it's devastating in the life of a person. The Lord encouraged them in this, and thus they became more and more bewildered. But Vidura wanted to achieve sincere devotional service of the Lord, and therefore became a soul absolutely surrendered to the absolute personality of Godhead. So this should be the goal for ourselves and for our family, to be absolutely surrendered to the supreme absolute personality of Godhead. He could realize this in the progress of his pilgrim's journey, and thus he was freed from all doubts. He realized that there's nothing else in his life than complete dependence on the mercy of Krishna. Therefore, he's not afraid of anything. Yeah? Oh, okay. He's not afraid of anything. He's fearless. Abhaya. Prabhupada's name is Abhaya Charanande. Charanande. It's fearless, right? He has the same name as Charan. But Charan doesn't have the Abhaya. Okay, so he was not at all sorry to be bereft of his hearth and home. Though he was not sorry that they threw him out of the palace. Not sorry at all. Actually, he was happy. Now we're going to hear why. Because he now had experienced that dependence on the mercy of the Lord is greater freedom than so-called freedom at home. Whoa. Dependence on the mercy of the Lord is greater freedom than so-called freedom at home. At home, someone said, well, if something happens to me, I got my brother, I got this one, I got that one, they all help me, you know. But Vidura realized completely depending on the Lord is more freedom than depending on the home and the hearth and the family and the cousins and the aunties and the uncles and all that stuff. A person should not be in the renounced order of life unless he is firmly convinced of being protected by the Lord. This stage of life is explained in Bhagavad Gita as Abhayam Sattva Samsuddhi. Every living entity is factually completely dependent on the mercy of the Lord, but unless one is in the pure state of existence, he cannot be established in this position. So this is a line in the 16th chapter, first verse, where it says, Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Abhayam Sattva Samsuddhir Jnana Yoga Vivastiti Dhanam Dhamascha Yagyascha Swadhyayas Tapa Arjavam Ahimsa Sattvam Akrodas Tyaga Santira Paisunam Daya Bhutesa Lolupvam Madhavam Hir Akalpalam Tejasam Adriti Socham Adroho Natimanita Bhavanti Sampradam Daivim Adi Jatasya Bharata. This is a very beautiful verse. And it says, the Supreme Personality of Godhead said, fearlessness, Abhayam, purification of one's existence, Sattva Samsuddhi. So that's where this word is coming from, these two words. So Prabhupada explains this. See, if you read Bhagavad Gita, okay, you get some understanding. But when you read Srimad-Bhagavatam and see the connection between what is in Bhagavad Gita and the explanation of Prabhupada's purport in the Srimad-Bhagavatam, then you really learn. You really learn what it means. Right? You really learn what these statements in the Bhagavad Gita mean. So he says, this stage of life, when one is firmly convinced of being protected by the Lord, this stage of life is explained in Bhagavad Gita as abhayam sattva samsuddhi. Every living entity is factually completely dependent on the mercy of the Lord, but unless one is in the pure state of existence. So it says abhayam sattva samsuddhi. Abhayam means fearlessness. Sattva samsuddhi means that one is engaged in purification. So what does that mean? They're following strictly the regulative principles. Know this, know that, know this, know that, right? And they're doing it not because they're forced to do it, but because they realize that this is the basis of spiritual life and Krishna consciousness. Follow the 4 regulative principles. So actually there are 8. 4 things you shouldn't do and 4 things that you should do. Right? So you should definitely not do the 4 things that you shouldn't do. Right? So when one follows this strictly, then there's actual purification of one's existence. The result of such purification is exhibited in fearlessness. When you become purified, then you're fearless. Why? Because you're absolutely sure that Krishna is going to protect you. So whatever happens, it's Krishna's mercy, and you're not confused or bewildered, no matter whether it's success or failure. Because there's no failure as long as you're always thinking of Krishna and dependent on Krishna. So instead of being dependent on your 401k, on your business, on your family, on your physical strength, on your intelligence, you're completely dependent on Krishna. Whereas other people, they're dependent on these things that I just said, right? Dependent on the police, dependent on the army, dependent on this, dependent on that. No, we should be completely dependent on Krishna. The result of such purification is exhibited in fearlessness. A devotee of the Lord who is called Narayana Para. So that's a statement by Lord Shiva, where he says, Narayana Paro Vyaktat, which means Narayana is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is beyond the manifested and non-manifested material creation. Right? It also means that when it's beyond the manifested and non-manifested state, it means that the unmanifested state of Brahma Jyoti is definitely less than being situated in a spiritual consciousness, right? So, Narayana Paro Avyaktat. So Narayan is never in any way under the influence of Maya. He's transcendental to the manifest and unmanifest state. Okay, so with this conviction, so a devotee of the Lord who is called Narayana Para is never afraid of anything because he is always aware of the fact that the Lord protects him in all circumstances. With this conviction, Vidura traveled alone, and he was not seen or recognized by any friend or foe. Thus he enjoyed freedom of life without obligation to the many duties of the world. So if you're not recognized by anyone, you're incognito in a sense, right? Nobody bothers you, either with good tidings or bad tidings, right? Okay, and then you don't have any duties, you know. Oh, I got to take my kid to the soccer game, you know. I got to, go with my wife to see her family and hear all the mundane things and do some mundane rituals and this and that, So you're not bothered by any of those things. Okay, so what time is it now? 7:12. So there's one other thing I didn't finish yesterday. So Yudhisthira was able to read signs in nature of positive or negative things. So he says, he saw that the direction of eternal time had changed, and this was very fearful. There were disruptions in the seasonal regularities. The people in general had become very greedy, angry, and deceitful. And he saw that they were adopting foul means of livelihood. When he saw this, he said, something serious has happened. And then he surmised that Krishna must have left the planet, because nothing like this would happen under his kingdom, because he was so diligent to keep everyone Krishna conscious. That means that something terrible happened, and then he understood Krishna must have left. When civilization, Prabhupada writes, when civilization is disconnected from the loving relation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, symptoms like changes of seasonal regulations, climate change, foul means of livelihood, lying, greed, anger, fraudulence become rampant, lying, all these things. I saw a sign yesterday in Enumclaw. It said, are you tired of all their lies? And obviously, it's a Trumper, and he's talking about the Democrats. He said, are you tired of all their lies? He didn't say anything else. Then I go a little farther, and I see this other house, and they have big signs: Black Lives Matter, equity, this thing, that, all the buzzwords of the Democrats. So you see, politics, it just separates people, And then it says, the change of seasonal regulations refers to one season's atmosphere becoming manifest in another season. For example, the rainy seasons being transferred to autumn, or the fructification of fruits and flowers from one season in another season. A godless man is invariably greedy, angry, and fraudulent. Such a man can earn his livelihood by any means, black or white. During the reign of Maharaj Yudhisthira, all the above symptoms were conspicuous by their absence. But Maharaj Yudhisthira was astonished to experience even a slight change in the godly atmosphere of the kingdom, and at once he suspected the disappearance of the Lord. Foul means of livelihood implies deviation from one's occupational duty. There are prescribed duties for everyone, such as the Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, and Sudra. But anyone who deviates from his prescribed duty and declares another's duty to be his own is following a foul and improper duty. So that's like a Sudra becoming king, or a Sudra becoming a businessman. Ignorance is the cause for all these anomalies in human society, and to remove this ignorance, especially in the age of degradation, Kali Yuga, the powerful sun is there to distribute light in the shape of Srimad-Bhagavatam. So this is the panacea, the all-healing drug or herb. It's called Srimad-Bhagavatam. Therefore, we should be hearing it every day. And our kids should be hearing it every day and discussing it. And then the next verse, this is Srimad-Bhagavatam 1.14.4, so I just read 1.14.3. Point 4 says, all ordinary transactions and dealings became polluted with cheating, even between friends, and in familiar affairs. There was always misunderstanding between fathers, mothers, and sons, between well-wishers and between brothers. Even between husband and wife, there was always strain and quarrel. These are all bad situations. A conditioned living being is endowed with 4 principles of malpractice, namely errors, insanity, inability, and cheating. So that is mistakes, illusion, imperfect senses, and cheating propensity. but he named them a little differently. He says errors, insanity, inability, and cheating. So errors and cheating, well, mistakes and cheating, right? Then insanity is illusion, and inability is imperfect senses. Okay. These are signs of imperfection, and out of the four, the propensity to cheat others is most prominent, and this cheating practice is there in the conditioned souls because the conditioned souls are primarily in the material world imbued with an unnatural desire to lord it over the material world. So as long as we want to be a controller rather than a servant of Krishna, there's going to be a lot of problems, and all these bad qualities are going to be manifest. Okay, so we'll stop there. Are there any questions? What?
I think you tried calling me yesterday.
I called you
Yeah, I think you called.
yesterday? Probably had to do with planting starting to plant the vertical garden.
Okay, I'll follow.
Yeah. I bought a bunch of more herbs to plant. Yeah. Yes.
Hare Krishna Guru Maharaj.
Yes, bro.
So this is, I think, kind of extension to yesterday's our discussion and today again, to basically changing the profession from changing the profession. I mean, taking other profession is kind of these things, right? So Shudra cannot go to
That's actually
Brahmana.
a verse in the Bhagavad Gita.
Yeah, that verse is Brahmana. So there is, I mean, this is not a question, but this is just like clarification, where there is nothing black and white in our like Shastra, where it's very hard to stick to one thing.
Black and white is Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Sudra. Those qualities are very clear.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So for example, I can give you the example now. Chandragupta Maurya, he is coming from the Shudra family. Okay, he is the Shudra, but he was the emperor of India in ancient India.
Sutta Goswami was born in a
Correct.
low family also.
So there is nothing
Not a
like, but
Brahmin.
he advanced. I mean, because we say that at the same time, like it is not like birth, it is by your gunas and all. You can be like Kshatriya or Brahmana, and at the same time, so it is like little bit. You cannot stick to one thing because there is always like something else
question
to.
of training. So you take an illiterate person and you train them to read and write. So therefore, if they're trained properly, they can develop Brahminical qualities or the real qualities of a Kshatriya or the real qualities. That's why I want to start a Varnashram college in a new temple.
Yeah.
Train people properly.
Because again, today's we talked about the telling lies. But if it is the result, you are not bound. I mean, it's good result, you are not bound to that or something like that. So one person say, oh, telling lies is a generic term. But at the same time, there is always a other side. So there is no black and white. We cannot say this is the rule.
It is black and white. If you're going to tell the truth and it's going to harm someone else.
Yeah.
Like
But then
the example that I gave, where the sadhu has a vow of telling the truth, and he tells the truth, and it causes the death of a whole family, then you're not obliged to tell the truth. You can just say, I don't know.
Yeah. But then if the rule is telling lies is bad, so that's not a universal. I mean, because it changes.
There's a saying in English, the exception does not change the principle.
Okay.
So if someone wants to kill your children, so they break into your house and they say, where are your children? And you say, they went on vacation, even though they're in the bedroom hiding, right? We just say, they're in the bedroom. You can go look and find them there, right? No, you wouldn't say that. So, but the exception does not change the rule.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
So that's
That makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's say your daughter comes and stomps on you. the general principle is you are not supposed to use your leg on anybody, right? You're not supposed to kick anybody. But your daughter, when she was an infant, you liked her kicking on you, correct? So the law is you should not use your leg on anybody. But when your daughter, when she was like 6 months old, she used to do that on you. So is that wrong or right? So that's what I think Maharaj is trying to say, that nothing, I mean, not everything is black and white. Some laws are all time, place, and circumstances.
The
And
principle is the
principle
exception
is
does not change the law.
rule. Yeah. And another observation, Maharaj, is with Vibhishana Sharanagati, right?
What?
Vibhishana,
Yeah.
he was a Rakshasa, but he realized that his brother, who's Ravana, is
Crazy.
going against adharma. So he being a Rakshasa, he has his duties, but he knew that his brother was wrong and what he was following was wrong, and then he withdrew from him and then came to the righteous path, which is Ram. He came to Lord Ram, even though he was born and he is supposed to help his brother, but the moment he knew that he's following adharma, you should not be fearful to leave your clan or cult and whatever it is and follow the path of righteousness, because one trumps the other. It's the same thing with the example that you just said, right, Maharaj? That even though Bhishma, he knew, as you were saying, but he was sticking to the lower dharma, which is helping his clansmen or his people.
No, but he knew
But
he knew that they would not succeed. They
Yeah.
would lose the war. He knew it.
And that's why, since he was with them, even though they were adharmic, he had to be killed, even though he
Yeah.
is Bhishma
Yeah.
Pitamaha.
And not only that, he explained to Arjuna how Arjuna could kill him. Arjuna asked permission to kill him, and he gave him permission and told him how to do it. So, I mean, he was a devotee in a very difficult situation. Okay, so we'll start right there. Thank you very much, Hare Krishna. Again, I'm going to have to leave early. There's a war going on at the farm between the slugs and me. So if I don't do something, they're going to eat everything. And the only times I can see them is 10 o'clock at night and up to around 7:30, 8 o'clock in the morning. And, you know, they're all sizes. You know, you have little ones like that, and you got big ones like that.
And the little one is so little, like
It's so little, you can hardly see.
Their slug.
I was up till 10, 15 last night getting the little ones. I got all the big ones now, but the little ones are worse. There's more of them. You know. Haribol. There's war on many different levels. I don't kill them, I just throw them far away. Haribol. Very good. Make that more. We got plenty of men now. I'll keep bringing some. Haribol.
Today we'll sing together. मुझे जाना है. 25. There is मुझे भी एक. No, I can't sing and. No, I can't sing and play. Yeah, you sing. But I'll help you to be in sync, is what I'm saying. कहाँ से शुरू कर रहे हैं?
Shri Guru Charana Padma Kevala Bhagati Sadma
Shri Guru Charana
Padma Kevala
Bhakti Sadma
Banda Mohi Savadana Mate प्रसादे भाई ए भवतो रिया जाय कृष्ण प्राप्ति हो जहा होइते कृष्ण प्राप्ति हो जहा होइते गुरुमुख पद्मा वाक्या चित्त कोरिया क्या पद्मा वाक्या चित्त कोरिया क्या आरना कोरी हो माने आशा आरना कोरी हो माने आशा श्री गुरु चराने रति ऐसे उत्तमा गति श्री गुरु चराने रति ऐसे उत्तमा गति जे प्रसादे पूरे सर्वा आशा जे प्रसादे पूरे सर्वा आशा चक्षुदान दिलो जय जन्मे जन्मे प्रभु से चक्षुदान दिलो जय जन्मे जन्मे प्रभु से दिव्य ज्ञान हृदय प्रकाशितो प्रेमा भक्ति जहाँ होते अविद्या विनाशा जयते वेदे गाय जहाँ चरितो श्री गुरु करुणा सिंधु आधम जनारा बंधु लोकेनाथ लोके राजीवाना हा प्रभु करो दया देहो मोरे पद छाया हे बेजास गुश त्रिभुवाना प्रभुपाद पतित पवाना जयो प्रभु पदा जयो प्रभु पदा जयो प्रभु पदा जयो प्रभु पदा नमा ओम विष्णुपदाय कृष्ण पृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्ति वेदांत स्वामी इति नामिने नमस्ते सरस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेषा शून्यवादी पाश्चाता देशातारिणे Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadha Shivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda
Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Nanda Shri Advaita
Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadha Shivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare,
Hare Ramo, Hare Ramo, Ramo Ramo, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Nitai Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaura Hari Bol. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
master of the devotees. O master, be merciful unto us. Give us the shade of your lotus feet. Your fame is spread all over the three worlds. We take the shelter of the lotus feet of Srila Prabhupada.